What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. I can't believe N.K. Jemisin is back in the news, race baiting again. Oh, wait, I totally can. If you aren't familiar with N.K. Jemisin, she's won 3 Hugo Awards in a row, and all because she became a symbol of race and because of her race baiting politics, which she brought to the publishing world. She went out and just accused everybody of racism over and over and over again, attacked people based on race, came out with some pretty boring novels. And the science fiction community, in order to show how woke they were, decided to just hail her books and hail her as some champion in the publishing industry. And so that's all she does. As you can tell, even with this headline here that just came out yesterday, it's easier to get a book set in Black Africa published if you're white. And that's demonstrably not true. What's been happening in the publishing world over the last 10 years is the publishing world is shunning white authors over and over again. White authors are told what they're allowed to write. White authors are told they have to put diversity into their books. But on the other hand, if they put too much diversity into their books, they're accused of cultural appropriation and racism no matter what they do. And so that's exactly what Jemisin has tried to foster in her career because, other than getting some handouts from publishers because they can show how woke they are, she wouldn't be getting very far. And so that's what this interview is pretty much about. It's always about complaining about fake racism within the industry, when the industry actually pushes people like Jemisin because of race and not because of the quality of their work. And I've got some articles to demonstrate exactly how it's gone over the last several years, in case you haven't been paying attention to what's happened to other authors. Let's look at this. How other authors, including J.K. Rowling, need to hire sensitivity readers for touchy subjects in their books. This has been something that's been brought up, and there's a whole cottage industry now of, quote, sensitivity readers, which is people who you pay or publishers pay to get outraged about certain things, whether it's somebody being disabled, somebody being gay, somebody being the wrong race, and a white woman not being allowed to write a person of a different race or whatnot. All these different things to get outraged about so that they can change their book. And the sensitivity readers often go out and make a public mess of the book and start decrying the book that they were paid to, quote, be sensitive about. And so it's a shakedown industry. It's something that you're paying for the protection, but you better have your content in your book right. Otherwise, that protection could just as easily turn against you as anything else. And they're even turning against people like J.K. Rowling, who is pretty darn woke herself, if you look at what she does with different things. But these, you look at the way that they describe it, these readers get feedback based on self-ascribed areas of expertise on identity, dealing with terminal illness, racial dynamics in Muslim communities, or transgender issues. The industry recognizes this is a real concern. The real concern is that authors are not allowed to write what they want to write anymore. You cannot go out there and just write a story. Where N.K. Jemisin says it would be easier for a white person to publish a book set in Africa if, say, Brian Niemeyer, who's a white author, went to a publisher with a African science fiction book, he would get destroyed. He would get his entire career would be canceled. He would be vilified as a cultural appropriator. He would not get published whatsoever. It would just be a travesty of just trying to destroy him as a person, and he would never get published again. That's exactly what would happen, and that's why Jemisin is baiting like this, because she knows deep down this is absolutely false. She knows deep down that no matter what, a white person will get destroyed. And she wants to keep fostering that sort of anger and bitterness and resentment within publishing in order to keep her little scam going. Here's another example. She pulled her books when critics found it racist. Now she plans to publish. So this is obviously not a white person, Emily Zhao. She wrote a book called Blood Heir, and it features slavery. And of course, what happened when this came out was the sensitivity readers got triggered because slavery is something that's African in nature, and you can't do that if you're not African, which doesn't make sense because if you look at actually the most slavery around the world, and just in percentages and numbers like that, it happens in Southeast Asia with human trafficking more than anything else. And that's actually what Ms. Zhao is trying to address in her book here, which was coming from her own ancestral experiences, even though that's not necessary to write a book. In all honesty, I mean, if I felt like writing about that, I certainly would and wouldn't worry about the sensitivity censors. But that's what she was writing about. It had nothing to do with African race or anything like that. But she got torched on Twitter. She got torched online. She almost got her book deal pulled. She had a huge deal for her books, and she got it canceled originally. And there's a couple others, and I'll go into Kira Drake here, who's another one. Let's see. Where is the Kira Drake article? Looks like I didn't pull up Kira Drake. Okay, I pulled up two on Zhao. So here's the Washington Post article. So Kira Drake is another author. She is The Book is Racist. You see it. She is a white woman, and of course, because Zhao is not white, because she is Asian, she got to republish her book and get out of this. But Drake got something different because being white, that makes it a bigger crime to actually have different cultures. And so she wrote a fantasy world where there were different cultures. One of them seemed kind of like a Japanese culture, and one of them seemed like a Native American culture. And they were definitely fantasy cultures. They weren't real. There was nothing real about it. It had its own world, its own land. But everybody kind of flipped out at her for the exact same reason, because she wasn't allowed to, quote, write this book where there were different cultures on a continent in her book, because she's white. And that's what it came down to. Very sad to watch. She got her entire career torched. The continent was absolutely torched through the course of this. So that's just so many examples of how N.K. Jemisin's conversation here is just completely inaccurate. Once anybody finds out you have any sort of culture that could even be compared to another culture, you get torched, you get destroyed, and you get your entire publishing career revoked, and you get canceled. Very sad to watch. But this is just par for the course. So what are we going to do about it at this point? I, as an independent author, I just don't care. I'm going to write whatever I want to write. If I feel like writing an Afrofuturist trilogy or graphic novel or whatnot, I'm going to do it, and nobody's going to stop me. N.K. Jemisin can complain all she wants, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to write what I want to write. These are basically the church ladies of the modern era, right? At the end at the 80s, they made fun of it on SNL with, what's it going to be, Satan, and of course, right. But they really didn't have a lot of power in culture back then, which is very interesting. Everybody rebelled against it, and nobody was able to stop the culture from pushing the boundaries against that mentality. But now the new mentality is people just pointing and shrieking racist at people. And it's the same thing. So instead of Satan, it's racist. And that's exactly what we have going on now. So just fight it. Write what you want to write. Write the characters that you want to write. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about these people. They can only cancel you if you let them. Because in the modern era, we don't need publishers. We don't need agents. We don't need any of this. We only need readers to enjoy our fun. And that's what I'm going to provide, regardless of what race I put into my books, regardless of what characters I put into my books. And it doesn't matter. It's just going to be fun for readers. That's what we can keep doing. Speaking of which, I'll talk about my book, Colony Launch. This just came out last week. I'll put the link down below. Colony Launch features various characters of different different races, and of various characters of the two genders. Triggered. I put 4 different perspective characters from very different environments so that you could just get a very different picture of the world that I'm building within this universe. The main character is actually of Hawaiian descent, with his last name Kaile, and I don't really talk about that too much in the book because it doesn't matter. It's just part of who the character is, and he's not baiting anybody about that in the book because he's got better things to do and bigger things to worry about, like most of us do in our own day-to-day experiences. But there's also aliens in it, and the aliens have their own culture, and I'm not an alien, so I culturally appropriated their culture in this book also, and they are at war with humanity, and the aliens are portrayed as aggressors against humanity in this book. So trigger warning on that. It's a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it, and I think you'll have fun with science fiction like you used to be able to have without the censors being able to dictate what you're allowed to read. Check it out. It's in the link down below, and hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think about this topic. Is it easier to get published as a white person trying to write about Africa, or is it easier if you're not? All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.